Hello and welcome to Castle Talk, where we talk to writers and creators of today's genre worlds. I'm your host, Jason Henderson, author of the new book, Quest for the Nautilus, Young Captain Nemo from Macmillan Books. This episode, we're talking to Neasa Hardiman, director of the new film Sea Fever from Gunpowder and Sky Dust. Neasa, welcome.
Thank you very much. Lovely to be here.
You're both the director and the writer of, this is a thriller about a fishing vessel that comes across something mysterious in the deep, in the Atlantic. And I have so many questions. I mean, for one thing, did you come into this knowing everything you wanted to know about how a biologist on a fishing vessel would do their work, or did you steep yourself in research?
I immersed myself in research. I have to say, I knew absolutely nothing about marine biology. I knew absolutely nothing about trawler life. But what I did do was buy a whole load of books, read up on everything. And what I find is that's a great way to start thinking about story. So what I found was we know more about the surface of the moon than we do about the deep Atlantic. So that was pretty exciting. I also found that the fishing industry, particularly those small boats from the west coast of Europe, are dying because of large-scale commercial fishing and because of overfishing and because of the climate catastrophe. So that was a really interesting premise for a story. And then I love sci-fi and I love grounded sci-fi. So what I did was then invent a story that is a kind of dreamy, devastating eco-thriller rooted in the real world with what I hope are real three-dimensional characters with this what-if element of one science fiction element of this big animal that they come across.
Yeah, and one thing that really strikes me is you watch it and you believe that the people on this fishing trawler, that there's this concept in movies called, however you pronounce it, verisimilitude, where I don't know if what they're saying is real, but I know that I believe the characters. They sound like what they're saying is real, which I guess is what you as the writer
It's real. I promise you it's real.
I believe you, but I would believe you either way.
It is all real. It's all real, and everything that this huge creature does is all rooted in truth as well. It's all based on zoological research that I also undertook.
So they come across a large, mysterious animal that I think of as being similar to an enormous jellyfish. But I don't want to spoil too much, but can you tell me a little bit about the threat, the biological threat that they come across?
Well, what I wanted to do is, this idiom of grounded sci-fi, if you think of something like Arrival or Annihilation, or films like that where you have a very truthful, very grounded world, and you introduce one what-if element. So that's really what this story is. Everything else is really authentic and it's three-dimensional. All the characters are rich and three-dimensional as we can make them. Yeah. And then we introduce this one what-if element. And what you get with that what-if element is a big metaphor, and you want that to be a big, juicy metaphor. Yeah. So in the case of this animal that they find, everything about the animal is something that really happens in nature. But of course, it happens in lots of different animals. So I've just brought all those things together, and the animal is a metaphor for the natural world. So it's huge, and it's gorgeous, and it's mesmerizing when you look at it. But it's also dangerous and has the potential to destroy you and me and everything if you treat it badly.
I was also struck by there's so much here to talk about, because I'm with you on just the wonders of the I mean, I write a book about sea adventures, so I'm totally with you on that. But the thing that struck me here was the fear of contagion. Because you and I and everybody's working from home, and we're living in this weird this weird moment, and so the paranoia of contagion. Know, right? It suddenly becomes extremely important to our world. I'm just wondering, were you struck just as this was happening? You're going, hey, my movie's about to come out, and it's become more salient than ever.
I am sorry that actually the themes of it have suddenly become really, really present to all of us. It is a weird coincidence that we're living at this moment. And the theme of the story essentially is taking responsibility for yourself and for your neighbor and for your community. And, when you're infected, do you sacrifice yourself for the greater community? Or when your neighbor is infected, do you bring them into the greater community and risk the community? And there, it's trying to look at the ethics of that and when is this right, and it's also looking at people who are understandably frightened when they find themselves isolated and infected, and just want to get home and just want to get help, even if it means that everybody around them is going to die. And looking at the truth of that and the truth of how fear makes people really irrational. So I'm sorry that it's so relevant, but you're right. It is, the ethics of that have suddenly become really pertinent to all of us.
How long did it take you to write this piece when you're doing it? I wanted to switch over to your process, and you said that you did heaps of research and then you got busy. So how long did it take you to bring it together?
I did. Well, I wrote 7 complete drafts of the screenplay. Now,
Are you serious?
Between draft 5 and draft 7, it was it was sort of fine tuning. But yeah, that was the number of complete drafts. Now, before I'd written the first draft, I was researching story ideas and coming up with 1-page documents and rewriting those and thinking through the characters and thinking through, well, if the theme is this, what kind of characters would resonate with that theme? What kind of person would that theme be really relevant to, and how would they interact with somebody who had the opposite desires? And trying to work all that out in advance of writing the screenplay. And then you write the screenplay and then you rewrite it and rewrite it and rewrite it. And you're kind of fine-tuning and developing and refining and combing through all your ideas as you're rewriting, so that they're coming into sharper and sharper focus each time you rewrite the script.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about the shooting. Did you actually shoot this am I seeing the real thing? Did you really shoot in these tiny constrained spaces and on a ship?
We started the shoot, we shot on a real trawler. The real trawler is owned by a brilliant woman called Connie Nielsen, who was incredibly helpful to me. She read the script and gave me some tips on particular ways that the crew talk to each other, or particular ways that they behave around each other, which was massively helpful. And the boat is a real working boat. It's a real working boat made out of ancient wood and cast iron, and it's very claustrophobic. So we shot all of the exterior scenes live on the Irish Ocean on the boat, and it is a super dangerous place to be. There is no more dangerous workplace in Ireland and the UK than a fishing trawler, so we have to be really, really careful of all the cast and crew. And I thought carefully about shooting the interiors on the boat, but honestly, you could not get the camera equipment into those tiny spaces. So what we did was we rebuilt the boat in a studio. Our brilliant designer rebuilt the entirety of the boat so that the actors could move from one part of the boat to the other. They could move from the fishhold right up to the top of the boat without ever leaving the set, so that we had this claustrophobic enclosed space that is no bigger than the real boat. But we were able to take out certain walls and certain spaces so that the lens of the camera is never outside the boat, but we could have the lens of the camera just flush with the wall, and we could keep all the hairy 80 crew members out of those tiny spaces, so these spaces were just available to the actors in the way that they really would be if they were out at sea.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's really, really cool. So when does it come out? I don't have the release date in front of me, but I know it's quite soon. Do you know?
It's coming out April 10th.
Right.
Coming out April 10th, and it is due to come out in cinemas nationwide. Now, I don't know if that's still going to happen. We will keep our fingers crossed that everything might resolve. But if it's a case that we all need to stay safe and take responsibility for ourselves and each other, it may not come out in cinemas on April 10th, but there will be a video on demand release. So I hope lots of people will use their wonderful time at home to watch our movie through video on demand.
Here in the United States, Gunpowder and Sky has been doing some really good releases. I'm sure people will put it on their giant screens if they have to. So, Neasa Hardiman, it has been a delight to talk to you. This has been really fascinating, and I'm amazed at what you've been able to pull together. I love the research that you've done, and I wish you the best of luck with it.
Oh, well, thank you. It's a great pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Ciao.